So this is going to be the review for your midterm. Please make sure you see this as many times as you need. So the first problem is asking for domain. We need to remember domain means X. The second part it's asking for is range. Now, what does that right there mean? So when we look at our problem, please make sure that you know for domain, we're going to draw the lines through the x-axis. When I draw it through -3 and through here. Please remember, if you do it through the axis, that means 0. So my domain is from a -3 to a 0. Because they have closed circles there, we need to use brackets. So -3 to 0, the only one that has -3 to 0 for domain would be the first one. But I know that's probably your answer, but let's just double check with the range. Now for the range, we said it's y, so we're going to go to the lowest point and draw the line towards the y-axis. And this is my highest point, and draw the line to the y-axis. So we're going from a -1 to 3, and is that correct here? Yes, it is. So my answer should have been A. Domain and range. Next problem. They give you two functions and they put f and g next to each other, so that means they want for you to multiply them. So I will have to take 3x plus 4, 9x minus 5, and do the FOIL or distributive property. 3x times 9x would be 27x squared. 3x times -5 would be -15x. 4 times 9x is 36x. And 4 times -5 is -20. Just by looking at that, I should already know C cannot be my answer. So I should be able to combine the two middle terms. 27x squared, -15 plus 36 should be a positive 21 minus 20. Positive 21x minus 20, so my answer is A also. When we look at the next problem, we're looking for a composition. Now, composition means f of g. Now remember, we said this means f of g of x. We've seen this before, the fog and the GOF, the GOF. So what does that mean? When we have function f2, what do we have to replace the x and function f with? The function g. So I'm taking all the function g and putting it in here. 4 over 5x. So right now, I know I have a lot of stuff going on, but the top, I can't do much with it, so we just leave it alone, but we need to work with the bottom. So I'm going to put the 3 over 1, and I have to look at it as two fractions. How can I subtract fractions or add them? Only if they have the same denominator. So I have to multiply both top and bottom by 5x, both top and bottom by 5x. When I do that, I end up with 2 over, nothing happens to the first one, but now this becomes 15x over 5x. Since my denominators are the same, I get to work with the numerator, so this now becomes 2 over 4 minus 15x over 5x. Please keep in mind that your denominators do not cancel each other out. They just become one big fraction. Now, this becomes 2 divided by 4 minus 15x over 5x. Now, when we were talking about this, we went back to when you were in elementary, that when you're dividing by a fraction, you have to multiply by its reciprocal. So this here becomes 2 times 5x over 4 minus 15x. So when we multiply the top, what's 2 times 5x? Well, that is 10x. And 1 times 4 minus 15, that stays 4 minus 15x. If we look at this, this corresponds to answer choice A. Let's look at number 4. Number 4, it's a piecewise function, so depending on what we're looking at is which one we're going to use. So they tell you that the value of x is this number. If x is negative 2, is it less than 2, between 2 and 4, or greater than 4? Because x is a negative 2, the condition that it falls under is the top one, because it is less than a positive 2. So all we have to do is substitute it there. So we have 5 parentheses, negative 2 plus 1. This is negative 10 plus 1, which equals a negative 9. So my answer would be D. Now remember, this video, you can pause it, rewind it as many times as you want. Depends how prepared you want to be for the test. We're going to skip number 5, and then we're going to look at number 6. Determine if the complete graph represents a function, if it's odd or even. So by looking at the graph, the deal for it to be odd, it was that it had to be symmetrical about the origin. Now, how did you find out if it was symmetrical about the origin? You had to flip your paper 180 degrees, and if it looked exactly the same, then it would be odd. In order for it to be even, it had to reflect off of, I can't remember, but the one on your test is going to be like this. So when I flipped it, was it exactly the same? Yes. So it should be odd. So for number 7, they're asking for the minimum and maximum. Now please remember, this is your vertex. Depending on how your graph opens, is it a min or a max? So all you have to do for this problem is, let's go ahead and graph this. So we're going to go to graph, and I'm going to type in the equation that they give me. Move this over. And it is 3x squared plus 2x minus 9. So when I look at the graph, first of all, you need to determine, is this going to give you a minimum or a maximum? Because of the location of the graph that it opens up, your vertex is going to be your min. So right away, I already know my answer is not A, and it's not C. So is the minimum, where is it? That's a big question. So how do we find it? If we go to menu, analyze graph, which is number 6, and because we said it was a minimum, number 2. So when I do this, I could go, it should be somewhere right there, and I could move over. And it might pop up, might not. If you can't see it, guess what? Once you press enter, there it is. So I got a negative 0.3333, which is a negative 1/3, and a negative 9.333, which is a negative 28.3. So is my answer B or D? According to this, it should be D. So once again, menu, analyze graph, and a minimum, which is number 2. You just go to the left of that little vertex, you go over it, and then it pops up right there. Now, the next problem, it was in the last test you took, it's been in the notes and everything. We're looking for zeros and multiplicity. So the first thing we have to see is everything factored out completely. Can I do anything with that 5x? No. Can I do anything with the x minus 7? No. Can I do anything with the x squared minus 9? Yes. X squared minus 9 becomes x plus 3 and x minus 3, because remember, it's a difference of a perfect square. So I could take the square root of 9. And in front of it, of course, we have the x minus 7 squared and the 5x. So each of these things we have to set equal to 0. So I'm going to go ahead and do that in the bottom part of the problem. So I have 5x equals to 0. 5 minus 7 equals to 0. 5 plus 3 equals to 0, and 5 minus 3 equals to 0. So how do we solve the first one for x? We divide by 5. So x is 0. We add 7. So x equals 7. We subtract 3. So x equals negative 3. We add 3. So x equals a positive 3. So we have a 0. How many times does this 0 happen there? Is there an exponent? No. So it has to only be a multiplicity of 1. 0 multiplicity of 1? Yes. 0 multiplicity of 1? Yes. Is there a 0 in C? Nope. So that one's out of the question. 0 multiplicity of 1. That's correct. Now, it has a plus and minus 3 because I have a positive 3 and a negative 3. They're just putting it in one answer. And the multiplicity of each of these, each of them only appears once. So plus and minus 3 plus multiplicity of 1, that is correct. Is it a multiplicity of, is negative 9 part of my answer? Nope. So it can't be B. And multiplicity of 3 and negative 3, multiplicity of 2? No, because once again, each one only appears once. So it can't be D also. Then we just double check, does it have 7 multiplicity of 2? Why is it multiplicity of 2? Because of our exponent. So is that correct? Yes, so my answer should be A. For the next problem, we're going to have to use synthetic division. Now remember, when it's missing a variable or a constant, we have to put a 0. So when I look at this, my first one is x to the 4th, and that is a 3. Do I have an x cubed? Yep. My leading coefficient there is a negative 2. And then I have an x squared. Yes, that's a negative 10. Do I have an x? No. So I have to make sure and I put a 0. And then the constant is a positive 15. Now, what is the number that we're going to use outside? Whatever your divisor is, please remember we set it equal to 0, so I will have to use a 2. I'm going to go ahead and move this up. We're going to put a 2 right there. To do synthetic division, we bring down the first number, which is a 3. We multiply the 2 times the 3, which is a 6. Negative 2 plus 6 is a 4. 2 times 4 is an 8. Negative 10 plus 8 would be a negative 2. 2 times negative 2 is a negative 4. 0 minus 4 would be a negative 4. That is a negative 8. And then I have 15 minus 8, which is a 7. Now keep in mind, your last number would be your remainder. This is your constant, this is your x, this is your x squared, and this is your x cubed. So the final answer would be 3x cubed plus 4x squared minus 2x minus 4 plus the remainder over your divisor, which was an x minus 2. So if I look at this and I look at my answer choices, the only one that matches it would be A. Number 10, we're looking for transformations. Anytime there is a negative up in the front, there is a reflection over x-axis. So right away my answer has to flip over the x. So A cannot be my answer because it doesn't flip over. B could be my answer because now it opens down. C could be my answer, and D could be my answer. And then remember the number outside, it tells you if it moves up or down. So this one, because it has a positive, it moves up. So it should move up too. Does this one move up? Yes. Sorry, B, it moves up. Does C move up? That one moves down, so it can't be that one. Does D move up? Yes, it does. So the next thing we have to look at is the number in the middle. If it's a +2, remember it does the opposite. We think plus is to the right, but when it does the opposite, this actually moves left 2. So which one moves left? B or D? And by the looks of it, it looks like it's B. So reflection moves left and moves up. For number 11, when they ask, all it says sketch a graph. So what do we have to do? Just put it into the calculator. So going back here, we're just going to sketch it. X plus 1 on top, bottom, x squared plus x minus 20. When I graph this, we just need to look at it and see which of these graphs looks like it. So if we look at it, this one, the curve is here, so it can't be A. The curve is on the top, so it can't be B. So we're between C and D, because this does curve like that. Now, the right one is on the top part, and for D, it's not here. This one is. So the answer should be C. And you're just matching graphs. And I look for, maybe that one didn't look clear, but it's pretty basic. You just match a graph to the one that's on the calculator, and the matching graph would be C. There it is. Now for the next problem, we're looking for all the possible zeros. So I need to know who my constant is, and my constant is 12. And I need to know who my leading coefficient is, and my leading coefficient is 3. Now your factors of 12 are 1 and 12, 2 and 6, 3 and 4. My factors of 3 is just 1 and 3. So when you make your table, plus minus 1, plus minus 2, plus minus 3, plus minus 4, plus minus 6, and a plus minus 12. Plus minus 1, plus minus 3. So please keep in mind, the way you do this is the way you set them up. Constant over your leading coefficient. 1 over 1, plus minus 1. 1 over 3, plus minus 1/3. 2 over 1, plus minus 2. 2 over 3, 2/3. 3 over 1, plus minus 3. 3 over 3 is a 1. I already have 1, so I don't have to write it down. 4 over 1, plus minus 4. 4 over 3. And I'm going to start writing them over here. 4 over 3. 6 over 1, 6. 6 over 3 is a 2, and I already have the 2, so we're okay. 12 over 1, plus minus 12. And then 12 divided by 3 would be a 4. Do I have a 4 already? Yes. So these would be all the possible numbers. So I need, my whole numbers are 1, 2, 3, 4, 6, and 12. 1, 2, 3, 4, 6, 12. Yep. This one's missing 4. It can't be this one. 1, 2, 3, 4. Yep. And if I look at A, it can't be A either. So it's not A or C, because A is missing 2, 4, 6, and 12. And C is missing 4. And then we look at the other fractions, 1/3, 2/3, and 4/3. And which one has those 3? Only B. So my answer would be B. Please remember, you're going to have an hour and a half to do these 25 problems. There's no reason why you should be rushing through them and making careless mistakes. Last problem on this page. Now, remember, this one deals with the change in sign. So when we look for the positive, we just look at the problem the way it is. Not changing anything. Trying to see if there is a change or not. So when I do that, that should help me eliminate two answers. So my first is positive, and it goes to a negative. Is there a change there? Yes. From a negative to a negative, is there a change? No. From a negative to a positive, is there a change? Yes. From a positive to a positive, is there a change? Nope. From a positive to a negative, is there a change? Yes. So when I add my changes, that's 1 plus 1 plus 1, which is 3. Now remember, you have to subtract 2. So it's either going to be 3 or 1 positive zeros. So that already helps me eliminate answer A and C. It's either 3 or 1. Now, to do the negative zeros, I have to plug in a negative x for all the x's. Negative x to the 5th minus 3.2, negative x to the 4th minus 13.8, negative x to the 3rd plus 3 negative x squared plus 41.09 is negative x minus 5.952. So there it is. Long problem, I get it. So anytime that your exponent is odd, your variable, if it's a negative, it's going to stay negative, but depending on what's the leading coefficient, it may change. So here I have negative x to the 5th will remain negative x to the 5th. Negative x to the 4th, because it's even, it should become positive, but it's multiplied by a negative 3.2, so it has to be a negative 3.2 x to the 4th. Right here, the negative x cubed is a negative x, but because it has a negative in the front, it becomes a positive 3.8x cubed. The negative x squared is a positive times a positive 3, stays positive x squared. This is a negative x times a positive 41, becomes a negative 41.09x, and then that minus 5.52, it stays what it is because it doesn't have an x. So from a negative to a negative, is there a sign change? Nope. From a negative to a positive, is there a sign change? Yes. From a positive to a positive, sign change? Nope. Positive to negative, sign change? Yes. Sign change in the last part? No. So the only sign changes I have, 1 plus 1 is 2. We subtract 2, so it's 0. So who has 2 and 0? B. For number 14, the easiest way for you to start this problem is graph the function that they give you. Do not put the equals to 0. You're just going to put the 3x to the 4th minus 22x cubed plus 64x squared minus 58x plus 13. Once you do that, you should be able to find the two zeros that you have that are real, whether they're whole numbers or fractions. So when I graph it, there it is. I press enter. This is the graph that I get. Now, when I get this graph, I need you to understand two things. There's two answers right there. Now, so my first real answer would be a positive 1, and then it's a positive something. So how can you find a 0 using your calculator, menu, analyze graph, and right there, 1 says 0. So I want to know what that first one is because I don't know what it is. So I go over, I press enter, and it says it's a 0.3333. So it's a positive 1/3, and it's a 1. Those are the two numbers that I have to use, and you could go and find the other one if you're not sure if it's a 1 or not, because it could be something, and I accidentally, sorry, I went over it too much. There it is. And it's going to look messy, but believe me, it's right there, 1 0. So those are the first two answers. So which one has a positive 1 and a negative 1/3? Obviously, it would only be C. But I'm still going to work it out because I really don't know if that's the way it's going to be on your test. So remember, for the first two, you use synthetic division. 3, negative 22, 64, negative 58, and a 13. The first number I'm supposed to use is a 1, because we know that one was going to work. So this is a 3, negative 19. Negative 19 times 1 is negative 19. 64 minus 19 is 45. This is 45 here. Negative 58 plus 45 is a negative 13. And negative 13 times 1 is a negative 13, and then that's 0. So that's perfect. And then I was supposed to use a 1/3. So this is a 3. 1/3 times 3 is 1. And this becomes a negative 18. Negative 18 times a 1/3 is a negative 6. 45 minus 6 is a 39. 39 times 1/3 is 13, and that is a 0. So that's how I know those two work. And once again, if 1 and 1/3 appear on two problems to be the same, then you would have to use quadratic formula, where this is your A, your B, and your C. X equals negative 18 plus minus the square root of negative 18 squared minus 4 times 3 times 39 all over 2 times 3. So this becomes a positive 18 plus or minus 18 squared is 324 minus 3 times 4 times 39, 468, divided by 6. 324 minus 468, 18 plus minus the square root of a negative 144 over 6, and the square root of a negative 144, square root of 144 is 12 because it has a negative, it's an I. So 18 divided by 6 plus minus 12i divided by 6. 18 divided by 6 is 3. 12 divided by 6 is 2i. So do we have 3 plus 2i, 3 minus 2i? Yes. There we go. Crazy, but it's there. And the problem that will haunt you forever, number 15. So, leading coefficient 1, power of 4, and it gives you two things. So, first problems that we should work are these two. That is x minus 5 and an x plus 5. Because of those two zeros. And because of the 2i, please remember we have x minus 2i and an x plus 2i. So we do FOIL in the first two, and then we'll take care of the second two. So x times x squared, x times 5, 5x, negative 5 times x, negative 5x, negative 5 times 5, 25. X squared, both terms in the middle, they cancel, minus 25. On the other side, we have x times x, which is x squared, x times a positive 2i, and a negative x, a negative 2i times x, and then negative 2 and a positive 2 becomes negative 4i squared. Now our two middle terms here also cancel. So I'm just left over with x squared minus 4i squared. But I squared, from what we've learned, is a negative 1. So negative 4 times a negative 1 becomes a positive 1. And I still have to multiply times what's in the front. So x squared times x squared is x to the 4th. X squared times 4, 4x squared. Negative 25 times x squared, negative 25x squared. Negative 25 times 4, and negative 100. Two middle terms we should be able to combine. Drop the first one. This is a negative 21x squared minus 100. So my answer should be B. Okay, when we're looking at this, it gives us a lot of information and it gives us a lot of functions. So please understand one thing. First thing is that our numerator is going to give us our x-intercepts. Our denominator will give us the vertical isotopes. So that's the first thing we need to do, and it might help us to find the right answer. So when I look at this and I'm looking for an x-intercept of a negative 1 and negative 1, in order for my answer to be a negative 1, my top answers, if I have this, x minus 1 is equal to 0, I get a positive 1. So could this be my answer? No. This one has a minus 1 also? No. If my answer is x plus 1 and I set it equal to 0, do I get a negative 1? Yes. So my answer could either be C or D according to what I see right there. Now the next part is I need my vertical isotope to be a positive 4. In order for it to be a positive 4, vertical isotope comes from my denominator. So my denominator here would be 4, so I have x minus 4. Is that equal to 0? Do I get a positive 4? Yes. Now both of those give me the same thing. The only thing that would be different is your vertical isotope. My horizontal. And this is 1 over 1 and 1 over 1, so that doesn't help. It's figuring out which one has an x-intercept of 1 over 16. So remember, how do you find your y-intercepts? Let your x's be 0. So when I do the top one, I have 0 plus 1, 0 plus 1 over 0 minus 4 squared. So 0 plus 1 is 1, and 0 plus 1 is 1, and 1 times 1 is 1. 0 minus 4 is a negative 4, and 4 squared is a 16. So it looks like that's my answer, but let me just do D just to be safe. 0 plus 1, 0 plus 1, and 0 minus 4. So that becomes 1, that's 1. And then the bottom would be a negative 4. So do I need a 1/16 or a negative 1/4? The answer would be 1/16. So my answer would be C. Next one, just by looking at the graph. Remember, vertical isotopes are isotopes that are going up and down. So I have a vertical isotope here, which is a negative 3, and one here, which is a positive 3. So vertical isotopes at both positive and negative 3, yes, yes, no, and no, because it says that they're at negative 1. And then I need a horizontal isotope at a negative 1, yes, and yes. So both of them have that. So the only difference between these are my domain. And how do I know that stuff that they're talking about is domain? Because it's the last thing in this list right there. So when I look at this graph is coming from negative infinity, and then it kind of stops here. And this is the value of a negative 3. So it goes from negative infinity to a negative 3. And then it starts off close to a negative 3, and then it goes where? Into positive 3. So from negative infinity to a positive 3. And then it starts off at a positive 3 and goes on to a positive infinity. Positive 3 to a positive infinity. Now all these would be connected with the union, of course, but I just wrote them right, one on top of the other. So my right answer here would have to be B. So when you have to factor, first of all, see, are all these divisible by something? So I have 5, 43, and 24. I have a 5, the other ones are not multiples of 5, so it's impossible. So we have to take the first number and multiply it times the last one. When I do that, 5 times 24 would be a 120. So I need factors of 120 to add up to 43. And I can list them all. 1 and 120, 2 and 60, 3 and 40, 4 and 30. But if I look at that, and I can keep going, the list gets bigger. If I look at those, I already found them. What is 40 plus 3? 43. Now remember, once you do this, you drop the first number. These become my middle numbers, plus 3x, plus 40x, plus 24. So your first and your last number come down. And then we have to do the factoring by grouping. We group the first two. So what do those two have in common? An x. So this becomes 5x plus 3. What do 40 and 24 have in common? They're both divisible by 8. So this becomes 5x plus 3 also. So my factors are x plus 8 and 5x plus 3. So if the question is just asking for the factors, that's your answer right there. But if they ask you to find the zeros, then you would set each one equal to 0. This one would become a negative 8, and this one would become a negative 3 over 5. Number 19, if we could simplify within it, let's work on that first. So can 48 be divided by 2? Yes, it can. So this becomes the cube root of 24. And remember your exponents, when you divide, you subtract them. So what is 7 minus 2? 5. Because we have a cube root, we need to look for cube answers. So please remember we have 1 cubed is 1, 2 cubed is 8, 3 cubed is 27. So obviously I can't use the 27, I might be able to use the 1 or the 8. So when I think of 24, I should be thinking of 8 times 3. So 8 times 3 gives me the 24, so that's good. Now, what do I do with my x to the 5th? Well, I need groups of 3. So I could do one group of 3, the other one stays x squared. So what is the cube root of 8? 2. Can I take the cube root of the 3? No. Can I take a cube root of x to the 3rd? Yes. Can I take a cube root of x squared? The answer is no. So we rearrange this to make it look correctly. These two have to be together, so this becomes 2x cube root of 3x squared. And this would be your final answer. So remember, your midterm is everything from the very beginning, and we talked about this. Number 20, I have to be able to simplify this. So when I think of the square root of negative 180, I need to be able to take the square root of something, I don't know what it is to be honest, and I know it's going to have to be an I because of the negative inside. So the square root, let's divide this by 4. Is it possible? Yes. 4 and 45, but maybe I could do something bigger. So 180 divided by 16? Nope. 180 divided by 25? No. 180 divided by 36? Yes, 36 and 5. So I'm going to use the square root of 36 and the square root of 5. So the square root of negative 1, because of the negative, the square root of 36, and the square root of 5, all divided by 6. So the square root of negative 1, and there's no negative, sorry, it's just a plus. So the square root of 36 is 6. The square root of a negative 1 is I. We cannot take the square root of 5, so that stays the square root of 5. We have to divide each one by 6. So when I do that, negative 24 divided by 6 is a negative 4. Plus, these cancel, so this just becomes I square root of 5. Next problem. When you have a negative inside, and that right there is even, it cannot be evaluated, so the answer would be not a real number. That's it for that one. So for number 22, 23, 24, and 25, your answers are going to be open-ended, which means these questions here will not be multiple choice, and your answer is just going to be a single number. It should be. So when they say find the product, basically what we have to do is do FOIL. So what does that mean? I will do 5 times 5, which is 25. 5 times a negative 2i, which is a negative 10i. 2i times 5, which is a positive 10i. And then 2i times a negative 2i, which is a negative 4i squared. My two middle terms, they cancel. 25 minus 4i squared, but I squared becomes a negative 1. So this becomes 25 plus 4, which is 29. So that would be your final answer, 29. Now this one is different from 21 because this is odd. So what number multiplied times itself 3 times can give me a negative 125? Negative 5 times a negative 5 times a negative 5. Negative times a negative, positive 25. Times a negative 5, oh, that equals negative 125. So what would my answer be? Just a negative 5. That's it. And that would be your one thing answer. For the next one, they ask you to find synthetic division. So I have x to the 4th, so that's a 1. Is there an x cubed? No. Is there an x squared? No. Is there an x? No. Is there a constant? Yes. So I have to put 1, 0, 0, 0, 16. It is divided by x minus 2. We set it equal to 0, so this is a positive 2. So when I do this, my first number comes down. 1 times 2 is 2, 0 plus 2, 2. 2 times 2, 4, 0 plus 4, 4. 2 times 4, 8, 0 plus 4, 8. 2 times 8, 16. 16 plus 16, 32. The question is asking your answer, or it will tell you, the answer will be the remainder. So my remainder will be 32. This is the answer that's going to go in. I don't care about anything else because they're only looking for the remainder. And the very last problem, we talked about the vertex being HK. H comes from the inside of the parentheses and the K from the outside. So H is here, K is there. So if I'm looking for the vertex, my K stays the same, but please remember just the way when you see a plus 3, it moves to the left 3. For my h, it will be a -3. So that would be the vertex. Now, if you don't remember that, graph it. And when you graph it, you will see it's at -3, 3. But the question is only going to ask for the x value. So the x value would just be a -3. And that would be my answer. That's what I will plug in into the little Scantron. So this is your review. If you have any questions, you need more clarification, I'm sure Mr. Gonzalez is more than willing to help you. So please make sure you study for your midterm. Bye.